Music back to back to back on iLive Radio.
Ra Hendricks at the controls.
When they took my friend away.
Welcoming you to Slipping into Darkness on iLive Radio. It is such a joy to be able to talk to you live.
When they took my friend away. You know he loved to drink good whiskey. Oh, 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 while laughing at the moon.
Welcome you to War, the band, not the real thing.
Take my mind beyond the trees. I was slipping into darkness, yeah. Take my mind beyond the trees. Where I talk to my brother. Who never said their name. Slipping into darkness, yeah. All my troubles, though I choose. I was slipping into darkness. All my troubles, though I choose. I got a wife and a baby, yeah, yeah. Whoa, oh, oh. Now my love has gained its fame, yeah. Slipping into darkness.
This is War, telling it like it is. And welcome to iLive Radio. This is the very first time I've stood in this studio, and I've got a wonderful guest to introduce who is going to share a great musical career with you.
I was slipping into darkness. When I heard my mother say, hey, what she say? Pretty soon you're gonna pay.
So I'm just going to set the mood with a few tunes before Tony shares his favorite music with you. And you will all know Slipping into Darkness. Classic 70s soul, jazz funk. Is just to enjoy the music tonight, and you will learn a lot about my special guest. I'll tell you who he is in a minute, but just stay put. Now, in light of the Black Lives Matter, earlier this evening, I listened to an excellent keynote address, which was given by Sister Jackie Mackenzie on behalf of the Pan-African Socialist Community Forum, and it was their Marcus Garvey Memorial Lecture. It was mind-blowing, and I'm just going to set the scene of what playing music in the US was like when some of these cats started.
Joe Sample, it's 1954, 1955. I'm either 15 or 16 years old. The place is somewhere in a barn with a bandstand along the East Texas and Louisiana border. We are in sugarcane country, approximately 200 miles from my hometown of Houston, Texas. I am the piano player in a band, the house band, the road band, or the put-together band, Country Towns. These blues artists could have been Gatemouth Brown, T-Bone Walker, Big Walter, Little Walter, Johnny Copeland, Percy Mayfield, or any number of those particular men that were prominent at that particular time. The custom was the band played a warm-up set, and of course the singer finally comes on to the bandstand, and then the show commences. We, of course, wanted to play our jazz. We would do anything to play jazz, and we would force jazz over the top of these rhythm and blues grooves. Suddenly, men would start walking from the back of the room and approach the bandstand. This man said to me, "Look, I want you niggas to understand something right now. We paid 25 cents at the front door, and we came in here to have a good time. Now it sounds to me you guys are playing a bunch of book, and we're not getting our money's worth. So we're going to tell you now, we will take your instruments from you, whip your ass, and destroy your vehicles, and more than likely you will have to walk and beg your way back to Houston, Texas. Now, we will do this to you unless you make us feel real good, real suddenly." So, of course, this is the supreme method and technique in the learning of how to groove. I became an instant groove master, as so did all of my buddies on the bandstand. This is a tale of development along the Texas-Louisiana border.
As I said, telling it like it is. And that probably was in the 1950s, what a musician had to go through. So here we are, we're setting the scene for a wonderful conversation with my special guest. Now, I think this tune is actually appropriate for the times we're living in. joy of being live is that you can actually say what the record is and who it's by. So there you have what's going on. And that's a question that's on all our lips. That is the brilliant bass guitarist Doc Powell. What's going on? Doc Powell. I've got some shout outs to do because this is the 10th week that I've actually put something together musically for Slipping Into Darkness, but it's the first time I've actually been in the studio. And all of those who have listened from day one, thank you. iLive is ready to go. Before I play the next tune, let me just say a very happy birthday, which was yesterday, to Mrs. Angela Phillips, to Ronaldo LaRose, otherwise known as Mr. Reds, and to Ian Watts. If you've ever seen any camera work that's got class on any television screen, Ian's probably behind it. I've already mentioned Jackie McKenzie, who did an excellent Marcus Garvey Memorial Lecture. Try and find it and listen to that, because she addresses the issues of today from a perspective of the Honorable Marcus Messiah Garvey. Worth listening to. Let me just say to DJ Fox, because I did a shout out to you last week, but it wasn't there when I listened. So, happy birthday, Fox. I know you're getting on, but don't worry, we all do. Also, the iLife family, which I've just joined. And it's just beautiful to find a bunch of committed people into music. Let me also say, I've got people that I've told they've got to listen today. So, to Jackie in Canada, to Frank in New Jersey, to Brian in Trinidad and Tobago, in Port of Spain, to David in Port of Spain, welcome to iLive Radio. Let's carry on with some music. Here we have the maestro, George Benson. David?
Hello, Ray.
Yeah, I knew it was you. Couldn't keep yourself quiet,
Just wishing you all the very best, bro.
Thank you, bro.
Know what I mean?
Thank you.
Belated birthday greetings. We are listening here.
Well, where's my bottle? Don't worry about belated birthday. Where's my...
You'll have to come and get it. You gotta come and get it.
Lockdown.
Yeah. You gotta come and get it, man.
Nice one, baby.
I'm not gonna keep it because I know you're busy. Just keep the music pumping.
Don't worry, boy. When you hear what my special guest has got to offer, you'll know we're in business. Yeah.
All right, man.
All right, bro.
You take care.
Thanks, yeah. And all the people in Port of Spain, yeah, just hail them up.
Will do.
Well, Trinidad and Tobago. Don't worry about Port of Spain. It's just a small place, Port of Spain. Trinidad and Tobago is the one.
Hey,
take good care, yeah.
Yeah. All right, bro.
Nice one. All right.
Later. All right.
got this record and have heard this record, just check this. The lineup is George Benson on guitar, Philip Church on rhythm guitar, Ronnie Foster on electric piano, George Dalto on clarinet, Stanley Banks bass, Harvey Mason drums, and Ralph McDonald, the late great Malcolm McDonald, on percussion. Another track by War, one of the iconic bands of the 1970s. Slipping into darkness will be music without borders. So before I come to my special guest, let me just introduce you to one of the finest violinists from Cuba, Omar Puente. Enjoy. Omar, if you're listening, buenas tardes, compañero. Now, we're getting now to my special guest. Before I introduce him, and let me just say there are 3 people in the studio, because I have to thank my buddy Jazinho, who's kind of controlling all the knobs. But let me just play you one composition by my special guest. Here we go. If I could play acoustic guitar like that, I'd be a contented human being. I'd like to welcome my special guest, Tony Remy. What's going, Tony?
Yeah, I'm good, man.
Oh, Lord, man. That was just such a sweet tune.
Thank you. That's got like a big story behind it, because it was written for my mum,
Right.
who always used to wake up in the morning and tell me she's had another dream, and and it was about this and that, and I said, wow. And she would always she bought this dream book,
Right.
that she would always try to kind of say, oh, I wonder if it means this. I wonder if I'm gonna win the pools or something, And she never won the pools anyway.
Yeah.
But so it was written for her, and I did it on the spur of the moment, because a friend of mine, Chris Phillips, who used to work with Jazz FM,
Right.
he said, "Oh, Tom, can you come on the radio and do something?"
Yeah.
And I wrote this tune, and I called up my friends Carl Vanden Bosch,
Yeah,
and Nick Cohen.
Let me just
studio.
read out the lineup. Yeah, so you've got there Tony Remy acoustic guitar, Carl Vanden Bosch percussion, Nick Cohen acoustic bass, Roger Beaujolais, is that multi-vibe?
Yeah,
and Cleveland Watkins on vocals. I mean, we're talking cream of the crop here.
cream of the crop, and we're still standing 35 years later.
Oh, geez. Well, listen, let's talk about that, because musicians are not playing, places are not open.
Well, lucky we have a legacy to kind of keep us content,
Of
and
course.
hopefully soon the war will be over and we can get back to
You can get back to doing what you
proper
do
ways,
best.
because right now I'm dying to play.
Of course,
really,
of course.
it's all well and good playing in your room and in
Of
your front room,
course.
in front of the TV.
Yeah.
But to turn up the amp, have people moaning at you and say, "Oh, Tony, it's too loud." I want that again. I miss it.
All right. Well, listen, I'm welcoming you to iLive Radio tonight, because we're going to share some of your favorite music.
Yeah.
And I want you to introduce the track that you've asked me to play, right?
Yeah.
Just say a few words about it, and we hit the button.
Yeah, well, this I think this is I had a different kind of idea what to play in the beginning of this radio thing, but I changed it because I heard what you played
Right.
earlier on, and I said, right now we need change.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And years ago I wrote a track called Metamorphology, and it's like derived from the word metamorphosis, the idea of change.
Yeah.
Right, so I just wanted to play this track for my friend who died some years ago.
Oh, gosh.
Carl St. Hill, he is the rapper on this track.
Okay.
This tune's called Metamorphology.
Right. Kafka's famous book, Metamorphosis.
Right.
All right, let's hit it.
The metamorphology. Taking voice from my mind and just follow me. This is the metamorphology. Taking voice from my mind and just follow me. This is the metamorphology. Taking voice from my mind and just follow me. Follow me. This is the metamorphology. Take a voice from my mind and just follow me. This is the metamorphology. Take a voice from my mind and just follow me. This is the metamorphology. Take a voice from my mind and just follow me. This is the metamorphology. Take a voice from my mind and just follow me. Yeah. This is the metamorphology. Take a voice from my mind and just follow me. This is the metamorphology. Take a voice from my mind and just follow me. This is the metamorphology.
Metamorphology. Yeah. Just to reassure everybody listening, we're practicing social distancing to the nth here. There's plenty of room between me and Jairzinho and between Jairzinho and Tony. All right? So don't get worried. Tony, man, you have a tremendous CV. You know?
So people say, yeah.
No, people don't say it. You have. And in terms of the range of music you played and the pleasure you've given to so many people. And that's why I wanted you to be number one. And by the way, this is part one of two parts.
Yeah.
So Tony's going to be back again next Wednesday. And we're going to be sharing some more, because that's what tonight is about. Sharing some of this great musicians' music. So let's have the second one now and just give us a little vibe on why you've chosen
this one is like back in the early days of starting out learning jazz and studying music, because I didn't go to music school. I studied like bedroom school of music basically.
Yeah.
And myself, Nick Cohen, a guy called Joe Bashuran,
right.
Winston Clifford.
Yeah.
We were all there in the bedroom, like learning all this stuff, listening to music. Like every Sunday we would go up to his house, to Joe Bashuran's house, and his mum would cook some rice and peas and blah, blah, blah. Pure food. And I had to go and eat at home as well afterwards, and I couldn't tell my mum.
Say you don't
I couldn't tell my mum that I've eaten, And so,
Sure.
we're there and we would just check out all these records, and we started to get into Chick Corea because Joe, he's a fantastic keyboard player.
Yeah.
And I started to listen to this thing, and I bought this record, Tap Step, because back then you could buy a record for £6,
Exactly. Hey.
And I bought it. I just saw, in fact, on one of these, I saw the label. It's a Yellow Jackets record, £6.49.
Yeah. Whoa.
HMV. Can't believe it, And anyway, we would be up there on a Sunday, and I checked out this record, Tap Step, and there was this tune, Samba LA.
Yeah.
And it just, when I heard it, it just blew my mind. Just like the synth work, the percussion, just the vibe. I felt like I was in Brazil.
Wow.
So check this tune out, man.
All right. Well, there you have a musician, a proper musician, giving you an inner view.
Yeah.
All right, here we go. Samba LA. Folks, you're listening to Slipping Into Darkness on iLive Radio with my very special guest, and I'm honored to be talking to this gentleman, Tony Remy. And on the decks, you're listening to Chick Corea. And bearing in mind that all the carnivals with hundreds of millions of people took place, and then every day since it's been like Ash Wednesday, nothing happening. So enjoy. Listening to Slipping Into Darkness and Tony Remy's choice, Samba LA by Chick Corea. And just listen to some of the musicians on this track. Don Elias, Stanley Clarke, Joe Henderson, Hubert Laws, Ayato Morera, Flora Purin. That's just some of the musicians on this track.
You're listening to iLive Radio, changing the way you listen to radio. iLive Radio. You're listening to iLive Radio.
This is Lisa Banton, and you're listening to iLive Radio, changing the way you listen to radio.
Hey, this is music producer Reggie Marks, and you're listening to iLive Radio, changing the way that you listen to radio.
This is Miracle Thomas, and you're listening to iLive Radio, changing the way you listen to radio.
You're listening to iLive Radio, changing the way you listen to radio. iLive Radio.
Welcome back once again. You're listening to Slipping Into Darkness on iLive Radio, and it is my absolute pleasure, one, to be in the studio and talking to you live. I'm standing on my own 2 feet, and you're getting this live and direct. But also, it's an absolute pleasure to have with me my special guest, Tony Remy. And Tony is sharing some classic cuts and describing the music behind the artist. Introduce your next track, T.
Well, this is this artist happens to be me on this track.
Okay.
And it's a tune that I wrote when I was like 19 years old.
All right.
And you know, it was done in a kind of rock and roll way back in the day, you know. But a couple of years ago, I thought, let me soulify it. And one of my great friends, Tony Monreal, said, Tones, come and sing this track for me, you know. And basically it's called Another Chapter, and it seems all these titles apt for now. We need another chapter right now. You know. So this one's called Another Chapter, and it's from my forthcoming album, In the Middle of Before and After. Okay. That means the moment. Okay. Check this out.
All right, go with it.
I really write a letter through the night, or do I
I stay or do I go? Tell me, I don't know. It's hard for me sometimes, yeah. Oh, woman, take my mind, use my face, my thoughts, my kind, but you will never see, because you don't know. And when the day is gone, the nights I cry, drunken eyes. Do I stay or do I go? And I woke up this morning, the rain fell in my room, to the sound of an old drum. But there is no tune, and I woke up this morning, yes. I know I've said this before, but have I opened another chapter, or simply closing the door? Take my mind, use my face, my thoughts, my kind, but you will never see, because you don't know me. And when the day is gone, the nights I cry, drunken nights, do I stay or do I go? Tell me, 'cause I don't know. Tell me what do I do? Tell me what do I do? Oh, yes, yes.
You're listening to Slipping Into Darkness on iLive Radio, and with my wonderful guest, Tony Remy, sharing some of his favorite musical tracks. T, one thing that's occurred to me, you're a man that's played all over the world. Mm-hmm. You've played to a diversity of audiences. When you come up on stage, you're looking at people that you've hardly met, you wouldn't know, and yet you got to make that experience something that they go from that stadium, from that concert hall, from that club, with a joy in their heart. So how do you approach it?
Well, maybe I'll start with a glass of wine. Well, that's the scary thing, because I think every musician has that kind of butterfly feeling, whether you're playing to one person in the audience or 100,000, and I've done the whole spectrum. I have played to one person in the audience before, I'm not ashamed to say that, but it's the learning curve. And it's what I do is, and I always say to my band or whoever I'm playing with, let's just go out there and kill it. Just enjoy ourselves. Because if people see us enjoying ourselves,
they will pick it up.
They will pick up the vibe. And that's the that's the thing, you know. So I remember one time I was playing. I did Live 8.
Okay.
Right, I did Live 8 with Annie Lennox, and you know I'm backstage and I can hear the roar of the crowd, and I made the mistake of looking through the curtains, and I saw like, you know, millions of people, you know, in Hyde Park, and I kind of thought, oh man, and I knew I had to start the tune.
Right.
So I knew I had to walk to the front of the stage and start this tune, you know.
Yeah.
And anyway, I plucked up the courage and I did it. But that feeling of having that roar in front of you, and when you know you're giving massive guitar pleasure to people, it's a fantastic feeling. You can't beat it. It's better than everything that you can think of. No, trust me. You know. Anyway, you know. I'm going back to my roots again. Okay. And I want to play a track, that I started out learning. We used to transcribe solos. And at the end of this track, there's a guitar player. And his name is Carlos Rios.
Okay.
And he played some guitar that, you know, just shaped my playing, because I was into kind of West Montgomery and all this kind of stuff, and he played some guitar and made me think, oh, you know what, I see another avenue there, you know. And then I became a rocker after this, you know. So this is from an album from the Yellow Jackets called Samurai Samba, and the track is Samurai Samba.
Okay, well, you and I both would probably have heard Jimi Hendrix, and thought, that is playing.
Yeah.
So I can hear where you're coming from.
Well, I'm not as old as you, you know. So, you know.
Point taken. Let's get into some more music. Tony Remy, my special guest, sharing the Yellow Jackets. evening. Yes, I'm listening. Can you hear me? Sorry, I had on the wrong headphones. Right, I'm getting used to the technology. Yes, I can hear you. Hello?
Yeah, it's me.
Me is who? There's about
me, Rex.
You are listening to jazz?
Yeah, well, it's you, so I'm trying to. But keep going, man. It's all right. Keep going.
Well, that is praise. I now know that I found my vocation.
Keep going, bro. Keep going, man. We'll talk tomorrow, all right?
Yes,
keep
yes.
Going.
Thanks for listening. You heard David called earlier, right?
Yeah, he went out live. I hope I'm not going out live, man.
You are going out very live. You want me to tell?
Brilliant.
You want me to tell people?
Brilliant.
You want me to tell
man,
people your full name?
I'm out. Bye.
Oh, God. Listening to Slipping into Darkness on iLive Radio, and I've welcomed everybody wherever you are in the world. Thank you for joining us tonight, because you're hearing a very special output, and it's part one of two parts with my special guest Tony Remy, and he is introducing us to the music that thrills him. So wherever you are in the world, if you're celebrating a birthday, happy birthday, bon anniversaire, whatever the language is that is your first language, I wish you the best for the day. If your birthday was yesterday, I wish you the best for yesterday. If it's tomorrow or the day after, I wish you the best for that. And thank you for joining us on iLive Radio. So I'm going back to my guest, Tony Remy. Tell us something about the next track.
Well, this track was a massive influence for me. You know, back in the day, I remember going to Hammersmith Odeon.
All right.
The first time I saw Miles Davis.
Yeah.
And he had Mike Stern on guitar.
Yeah.
Marcus Miller on bass.
Yeah.
I've forgotten the drummer.
Okay.
You know, it's been a long time, but I will never forget this concert because Miles Davis was like dressed up in this kind of army clothes with his trumpet, and I thought it just looked so cool. You know, his back was to the audience for most of it, but he just looked so cool. And Mike Stern's guitar playing just filled the Hammersmith Odeon, and I couldn't believe it. But anyway, this track and this record is called You're Under Arrest, because ever since that time I was a fan of Miles Davis.
Okay.
You know, I went back to kind of Blue and all this kind of stuff. You know, and this track, You're Under Arrest, and I discovered the immense guitar playing of one of my heroes, John Scofield.
Yeah, wow. Yeah.
You know, I had seen him before on a Billy Cobham album. It's the one with the hand on the album cover.
Okay.
It's a big hand on there, but I don't know what it's called. I've forgotten. And anyway, I kind of heard this guitar playing, and I thought, wow, how do you do that?
Yeah.
How does your brain think in this way?
Exactly.
You know, it's like high level mathematics, you know, and I know my mathematics.
Yeah.
Don't ask me my times tables right now, but on radio. But it's like, wow, how do you do this stuff? Anyway, You're Under Arrest, Miles Davis.
All right. Well,
featuring John Scofield.
I'm going to ask you, how does a man who is trained in the sciences, get to be such a great musician? But they say that music is maths.
Well,
so,
it is, all the 12, the tone rows and all that. It's all mathematical, I don't know. It's just that I think both mathemaicians and engineers and musicians, their brains are wired in the same way. In the same way,
Right, okay.
Because you start to see things when you're in music. You start to see, oh yeah, he's doing this, and you can see the number crunching going on.
Patterns in the music.
Yeah.
All right, okay. Well, all right.
Run the track.
You're back with me, Ra Hendricks, on Slipping Into Darkness, and I'm throwing out a big welcome to everybody who's tuned in today, because we're hearing one of the best sharing his music with us. Now, we were talking about you as a musician, in place, on stage, playing to the audience. But in terms of your listening, when you're in the comfort of your own space, do you go for, people who are playing guitar, or do you go for people who are sort of, doing something completely different?
Very rarely do I go to guitar. Back in the day when I was trying to learn, and copy licks and learn about the vibe of the guitar. Then I used to transcribe a lot of guitar solos and from the various people that I was into. But nowadays, I kind of I listen to such a wide variety of music. From classical music, I like Debussy, I like Satie, I like Ella. I grew up listening to the Clash and Sex Pistols and all that kind of stuff. And in fact, the next tune I want to play you is a tune, not necessarily the arrangement of the tune, but the title. Because I went to Brockwell Park, I think it was like some rock against racism thing, and Sex Pistols were there, and they played a tune, and it was like it all went totally wrong.
Lambeth's Country Show. I was trying to think of the name.
The tune went absolutely wrong. And what's his name? Was it Johnny Rotten or whatever his name is?
No, he was Sex Pistols.
Yeah, it's Sex Pistols.
Sex Pistols.
All right, about Sex Pistols,
right.
Yeah,
hardcore.
Yeah, he was on there, and this tune went totally wrong.
Wow.
And he came on the mic and went, "Close to music." So it wasn't quite music. It was just like something close to it, So I titled this track "Close to Music."
A spoken apology, you call that? All right, let's listen to this now. Close to Music. Here we go. Go for it.
Musos on this track. Tony Remy guitar. Roger Beaujolais vibes, MIDI vibes. Nick Cohen bass. Pete Lewison drums. Cleveland Watkins voice. Don Juan rap. Thank you. My very, very good buddies. Very, very good. Thank you.
Music, you understand?
Introduce that one again, T.
Yeah, that one was called Close to Music.
One of your own?
Yeah.
Oh,
own
okay.
composition. Yeah. Featuring Cleveland on voice.
Yeah. The crew.
The crew, my, one and only crew. Loyal to the bone, you know?
Yeah. All right, good stuff. Well, you're listening to Slipping Into Darkness. This is the first part of a two-parter, and I'm having fun. I hope you're enjoying the listen. It's the kind of music that iLive Radio is meant to present, and all the DJs, our greatest joy is entertaining you. And I've got one of the best musicians in this town, in this country, in the world, sharing his music. Tony, thank you for coming, man.
Oh, thank you
for
very
coming.
much.
Because with all the kind of worries that are going on outside the front door, it's like music is a good respite.
Yeah, definitely, I'm so happy to be here. Thank you, Ray.
No, man.
And
no,
you know what?
I
I have to say this, right? Well, this is uk.iliveradio.com, right?
Yeah.
But Raymondo, your enthusiasm for music over these 5-6 years. I know you knew you before that.
I know.
But we started to come into contact properly 5-6 years ago. Down at Brixton 414, blah blah blah.
Big up the 414 boy.
Yeah. What's his name? Anthony.
Tony and Louise.
Yeah.
Tony and Louise, shout out because
time.
music live in Brixton, Club 414.
Yeah. And your support for music. There's not many people like you. We need people like you.
I know.
We need you.
Yeah,
you know. So don't put on your slippers yet, you know.
Well, I don't know. I'm thinking of a hammock. Right. Well, you just opened up what they call, I think, a brand new biscuit. Is that how they used to introduce the tunes? Crisp new biscuit.
A crisp biscuit.
Crisp new biscuit. Because you took the wrapper off this one. So all I can see is the name. So you have to tell us.
Okay. Well, this tune, right, I had it on the piano for years and I never did anything with it.
This is you again.
This is my tune.
This is your tune,
yeah.
Right? Good.
And I was happy to kind of receive a copy. Is this the camera on? Yeah. I was happy to receive a copy of this compilation, and found out that the tune that I wrote, and featuring Tony Monroe again,
wow.
was like is one of my closest buddies.
Yeah.
And he's done this justice. And my friend from the Annie Lennox band, Steve Barney, killing the drums, blah blah blah. The rest goes on. I've mentioned the others already. So, I haven't heard this track on vinyl.
Okay, yeah.
I've heard it on MP3 and blah blah blah. And
when it comes out on the tangible object,
yeah. So here it is.
Well, listen. A lot of what you're hearing tonight on iLive Radio with Tony Remy is vinyl.
Yeah.
And all of the people out there who are still supporting vinyl. And I want to give a shout to Claudia Wilson, Pure Vinyl, because I'm getting most of the stuff that I'm having to look for again. You had the tune and all of a sudden you're looking for the tune and you can't find it because somebody has borrowed it, or you said, listen to this, and then 40 years later they still didn't give you it back.
Oh, yeah.
So Claudia, thank you for keeping the faith and thank you for being there. And I should add that Ty, and you know Ty well.
Yeah.
The DJs here know Ty well. I kind of couldn't go into all the condolences, for people who've gone.
Yeah.
Tony Allen,
massive condolences.
Jimmy Cobb. But Ty really from here touched so many people and covered such a vast range of music. And Ty was part of Pure Vinyl in Brixton, So as a man that you used to kind of see every day. You'd be walking and you're going to buck him up somewhere.
Yeah.
Because that was home.
He's a prolific guy.
Oh, jeez. All right. Well, let's listen to Tony Remy and Soul Shine. And it's called Lighthouse?
Lighthouse.
Let's go for this.
Check 1, check 2. My moment of gratitude. A star, you are to me. You shine so bright, overcoming my darkest night. In you, my need I see. I see that your light is always burning, even when my world stops turning. Like driftwood floating, you pull me in. I promise that I will keep on holding as long as your light keeps glowing. So when the tide's up, I know I could win. Just like a lighthouse, you are to me. A lighthouse, a place where I can drift to. Listen, woman, you've got me wide open. Even though your words are unspoken, I hear you just from your flow. You're more than amazing. Even got the stars that you gaze in. I love you, I want you to know. Just like a lighthouse, you are to me. A lighthouse, a place where I can drift to.
Tony Remy with Tony Monreal on vocals.
Tony Monreal, yeah.
Tony Monreal on vocals playing. Listen, if you have loved what you've heard so far, get in touch with iLive Radio. There's all kind of social media that you can check, and just let us know that you're having a good time. You're having as good a time as we're having here in the studio, because we are just having a ball playing for you. And the whole idea is to just ease some of the strife that's going on out there. Okay, right, T? I'm gonna get, because we're coming up to like we're inside the last 15 minutes. So I'm going to ask you to give me 2 more tunes, because we're going to come back again next week, because I want to play something by Terry Lynn Carrington and her group Social Science to basically just cap this evening's.
Okay.
All right. So go for your next tune, and if you can just say just a few words just to introduce it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, this one I called. I've got a band. My new band is called the Stolen Clones.
Okay.
And yes, it's featuring some usual suspects on the scene. But we recorded in a friend of mine's studio, Derek Nash's studio, down in where is it? Essex somewhere, or Kent? Yes, Kent. And so I did this tune, and it was cut live in the studio, featuring John Toussaint, and the various buds, Julian Crampton, and it's called E-Jam Blues.
All right. Okay. listening to Slipping Into Darkness on iLive Radio with my special guest, Tony Remy. And time has flown. If you stayed with us for the last 2 hours, thank you. And I hope you've enjoyed it as much as I have. We're going to go into Tony's last tune because I want to play something by Terry Lynn Carrington and her group Social Science to just close the program, which I think is a statement of our times, and it speaks to the time. So T, let me know, introduce your next tune.
Well, in my musical education, I happened to become friends with a legend, Jason Rebello.
Okay.
And, you know, I've known Jason since he was 15 years old. And, you know, I was a little bit older than him. You know, I think he's about 64 right now. He's going to kill me, you know. Anyway.
he's not walking with crutches yet. So let's just give him that.
He's still wearing trainers, you know. And anyway, you know, so, you know, I met him, you know, when he was a young guy, and he was just an incredible musician.
Yeah.
You know, at that age. And I said, wow. And, you know, we became friends. He, you know, in fact, he bought me my first half pint, you know, and I was drunk. I used to carry my amp on the 68 bus from Camden Town.
Yeah, and I felt the weight of that.
Right. The 68 bus from Camden Town to Camberwell.
So wonder the bus could move.
And meet Jason Rebello and Julian Crampton, Patrick Clahar, all those legends, you know,
geez.
back in the day when we were all little kids, you know, like naughty boys, you know.
Before you go any further, please forgive me. I have to give a shout out because the musicians who've actually contributed to this Slipping Into Darkness program, Patrick Clahar, Carlos Edwards, my good friend in New York, Amina Figueroa, Gary Crosby, Dennis Baptiste. Thank you.
Yeah.
Now we're with Tony, because you better come and sit down here and do the same that Tony. There's an open invitation. Yeah. Anyway, all right, let me get into the tune because
let's get into the tune. This one, you know, my nickname for my good friend Jason Rebello is Mr. Bean.
Yeah.
Right. So I call this one Ja Beans.
Okay.
Press.
All right. There we go. coming to the end of part 1 of Slipping Into Darkness, and I just want to kind of say you're listening to Jardines by Tony Remy, and T, this is just, as I say, a temporary pause, because we're going to be back next week. So just say good night to the listeners, because we've got literally 1 minute.
Thank you to all who have tuned in. I hope you got the Facebook message and the WhatsApp messages. Thank you for tuning in. This is iliveradio.com. It's been a pleasure. I'll be back next week, same time, same place.
For sure.
Yeah, so tune in.
All right. Well, thank you to my very special guest. And this is the first emission of Slipping Into Darkness, live from the studio. It's been a joy. And for the 2 people who called in, boy, thank you. You know? And I know one of them never listens to jazz. So he must be kind of sitting up now, scratching his head, thinking, what have I missed? Anyway, you've been listening to Slipping Into Darkness on iLive Radio. I thank you for having spent the last couple of hours. And we'll be back again next week at 9 p.m. BST, British Summertime. So take very good care, stay safe, and